Hey guys, check it out. You're watching Jonathan Clarke on YouTube. Oh no! Over the years, I've watched Walt Disney's Sleeping Beauty classic over 100 times. I have the DVD and I've watched it over 100 times because I have a greater appreciation for these characters and what they've meant to the Walt Disney franchise for forever. And for what feels like forever, for me, I've been a fan of every classic Disney princess fairy tale for forever, and it's been the greatest honor of my life being able to showcase that for you on YouTube every single day. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support you've shown this YouTube channel. For the foreseeable future, I will be here covering all things Descendants and Zombies because I think this is a never-ending conversation that people never want to see its conclusion. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that we never see a conclusion for Descendants and Zombies and keep this story going from chapter to chapter for the foreseeable future, because there is still so much more of a story to be told, especially with characters from Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella having a greater appreciation now because of Descendants and Zombies. I really think that Descendants and Zombies has brought Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella to life in a way that no other franchise has been able to do it, because Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland showcased their true potential on their own for many, many years, and now because of Descendants and Zombies, it's being retold in a new powerful story, and in such an emphatic way that gives you a greater appreciation for these stars and these characters for what they've truly meant to Disney for over 100 years. In over 100 years, we have seen Disney produce over 100 animated classics, and they have gone on to become some of the most revered, and because of Descendants and Zombies now, the greater emphasis and the greater appreciation is finally being given to villains and heroes. It's amazing how Disney has really brought this franchise to life, and it's been the greatest honor of my life being a part of it, because in 2015, I think Disney really came into its own off the introduction to Descendants, the powerful music, the powerful script, and I was a big fan of theater, so because I was a theater kid growing up through high school, I had a greater appreciation forever and always of these fairy tale characters, and I think that now that we have Cinderella and Prince Charming having a daughter, and the Queen of Hearts having a daughter that is ultimately going on to achieve more as the Princess of Wonderland, more than her mother ever expected her to ever amount to, I think this story is going to get deeper and it's going to become more intriguing with time. But the question I have is, where is Alice in Wonderland with all of this happening and all this going down in Wonderland, with the Kingdom Cup games apparently going to be happening next summer, arriving in Oregon for the first time ever? The thing about the Descendants scripts are they were always about true love, and they were always about people finding them and finding their true place in Oregon and finding their true place in life. There was never an opportunity to see a lot of action scenes or a lot of controversy, and now, for the first time next summer, we will see controversy arise in the Descendants script. So I'm really excited about that, along with the opportunity to see a lot of action and a lot of characters we never ever thought we'd see in the Descendants franchise to ever become a part of it, like Princess and the Frog and Encanto. Now, I will be honest with each and every one of you, I think it's a little bit too early to introduce characters from Encanto, but I guess this is Disney's way of making a desperate attempt to bring characters into a franchise that we never thought possible. I think what you should do is you should focus on characters that have a history with the Disney company that Disney has prided themselves on for forever, be it Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, The Little Mermaid, because I really think that the legendary characters are what Disney has prided itself on for forever. Now, while it's been said that Mickey Mouse is the most revered character of all time, and what Disney's characters has represented themselves for being for hundreds of years, I really believe that you should focus on these characters because of the greater emphasis and the greater appreciation coming from fans for Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland, be it that there's so much of a story. I really appreciate how people like Ruby Rose Turner took the story of the Queen of Hearts as a young representation and really brought it to life and put a stronger emphasis on how much of a profound impact bullying can have on a person's heart and how much further kindness can go in this lifetime. Because the reality of life is we're just on borrowed time, and the thing about time is time always runs out, and sand never fails to run through the hourglass and always subside. So because time always has this way of subsiding when we least expect it, and it's all about the time that we are allocated, the question is, what would we do with more time if we had it in the hourglass? Would we go back in time and fix some of the mistakes we've made? Because Lord knows we're all far from perfect. I have openly admitted with an open heart and an open mind on this show more times than I have ever chosen to admit to you guys that I'm far from perfect. And I think we all feel that same way, one way or another. But I think Descendants of Zombies has really encouraged us to get to a point in our life where we kind of take a step back and put our lives into perspective to give it a greater meaning and a greater purpose through finding that greater purpose. And that's what Chloe and Red did in The Rise of Red in 2024. They found their greater purpose, and how they found their greater purpose was through their friendship, and how they tested that friendship, and how it was tested many times throughout the course of the 90-minute production. While it's been said they told the story and completed it in 90 minutes, I refuse to believe that, because the story is never told and completed, because there is always an opportunity to write a new chapter. There's always a new opportunity to present a new story, especially now with Red having a sister for the very first time ever. So not only do we have an opportunity to see a lot more action with the Kingdom Cup games finding their way to Auradon this coming summer, we also have an opportunity to see a Descendants character have a sister and share in a sibling rivalry, which is something that I have a greater appreciation for, because the bond of family will be tested, and there will be a stronger emphasis and a greater appreciation having for family life by the end of this movie. This is going to be a family movie, hands down, that is going to become so revered. The thing is, this franchise received its fair share of criticism, but even in the light of its receiving its fair share of criticism, it went on to become some of the most revered Disney Channel franchises of all time because of the characters and how they really brought it to life. I have a greater appreciation for Ruby Rose Turner coming off the success of Descendants and Zombies, because this was an opportunity that Ruby was waiting to come knocking on her door for forever. And once it came knocking on her door, Ruby really seized the opportunity, and because of her seizing the opportunity, she went on to become one of the most revered and one of the most favorite characters of all time of everybody of the Descendants franchise. Without a doubt, hands down, Ruby became my favorite character because of how she inspired me to be a kinder person to people, how she really encouraged me to change my life and never really care what people thought of me. And that's how I perceive these videos. I record every video with an open heart and an open mind. With me, what you see is what you get. And I think that's the greater appreciation being shown from a host of a show to his audience, because I think that with a person, what you see is what you get is the most effective way of recording a video. I have never pre-written a statement, or I've never pre-prepared anything before I jump on this show and talk to you about my favorite fairy tale characters, because they're fairy tales and they're about imagining a brighter future for people like Cinderella and Alice. And I really believe that if you can imagine a brighter future for characters like Cinderella and Alice, that's where the greater appreciation comes in, because you remember being a fan of Alice in Wonderland and Cinderella. I mean, I would venture to say and take a shot at saying that everybody remember being a fan of Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland because of the rarity of these characters, from the appreciation that was shown from the VK kids in the Rise of Red franchise, which was a greater appreciation shown by this cast than any other cast past or present from the Descendants franchise, because I think it was more about an opportunity for people like Dove Cameron and Sophia Carson and showcasing their true worth and true value for future opportunities, because of what Descendants offered them the opportunity to do. For Sophia Carson, it was her first major breakout role as a Disney Channel star, and since the success she saw with Descendants over a decade ago, she has gone on to star in Purple Heart. She's gone on to record her own music and her own EPs and albums. So it's provided her with a door to be more widely open than ever before. The same thing can be said about Dove Cameron, because Dove Cameron's had opportunity after opportunity handed to her following the success of Descendants. But the thing is, one thing I noticed about the original cast is, even off the 10th anniversary of Descendants, which a lot of people were YouTubing, celebrating the 10th anniversary of Descendants and reflecting back on how much Descendants meant to each and every one of our individual lives, the cast of the original Descendants really weren't very obliging with promoting the 10th anniversary of Descendants. The only one who actually reflected back on our time with the Descendants franchise was Sophia Carson, and that was the only star of Descendants that they could actually reach out to have a greater appreciation showcased on her behalf. Dove Cameron pretty much is trying to leave her Disney past behind her, and that includes her past with the Descendants franchise. And for the life of me, I don't know why. I question whether or not it was actually that horrible of an experience or that frightening of an experience that Dove Cameron just doesn't want to reflect back on it. But I think that with how much of an appreciation come from fans about how Dove Cameron really brought this character to life, being so fearless, how she didn't really care what anybody thought of her, I think what Dove Cameron really needs to learn from and feel inspired by is the exemplification of these character traits that really brought Maleficent's daughter to life, because we never ever thought 25 years ago we would get to a point where Maleficent and Ursula would have daughters that would have so much confliction in a franchise that would achieve so much rarity. But I really think that Dove Cameron can really learn from the Mal character and really draw inspiration herself from this character, because I think Dove Cameron has really cared what people thought of her for a very long time, and it's really held Dove Cameron back from doing a lot of things that a lot of people probably expected her to do, especially with celebrating the 10th anniversary of Descendants. The thing was, Disney.com and D23.com had a lot of retrospective looks and rewinds for the Descendants franchise and reflected back on the history of Descendants and how much it meant to the Disney franchise and Disney Plus and Disney Channel, what have you. But I really believe that Disney World could have done something, like probably open up a Descendants attraction to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Descendants to commemorate it, or to have the Descendants characters, make a special appearance at the Disney World Resort, because they'll go all out for Halloween celebrations, and I think this is the perfect opportunity with pumpkins on Main Street now and Halloween parties every single night to have the original Descendants cast make a special appearance, or to do something to reflect back on how much Descendants has really meant to all of our lives. You would have thought by now they would have opened up a Descendants attraction. They do everything. They've even reopened the Haunted Mansion for The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Nightmare Before Christmas has Halloween Town every year at Disney World and all these special attractions, so you would have thought by now Disney would have opened up the door to have something happen to commemorate Descendants, or had a special attraction, or probably would have released even special commemorative merchandise like hoodies and sweaters and jackets, which I've been campaigning for, because I really think that anything you can attach the Descendants logo to, you should take full advantage of, because it would definitely generate a lot of revenue and garner a lot of attention, because I know a lot of people were YouTubing Descendants and Zombies Worlds Collide Tour merch because they wanted to be a part of it and they wanted to have something to commemorate it. And the interesting thing was, when people were compiling the reviews of the Worlds Collide Tour, one thing that really frustrated me was that people could never say enough negative things about the merch quality, how it didn't really live up to their expected standards. Who really cared? As long as you came away from the Worlds Collide Tour having a good time, something that you will never ever forget, you had some commemorative merchandise, regardless of what the quality was of it. I mean, anything, it just goes to show, anything that anybody can criticize on their videos because they're paid up in the high amounts to review this kind of thing, will find something to criticize about such a wonderful experience, because the way I chose to look at it was, you guys had fun, and you had fun, and you made it worth all the money in the world to go and attend this Worlds Collide Tour, and I think that there is no price tag on happiness. That's something I've always believed. So I think that people who just went out of their way to find something to criticize about the Worlds Collide Tour, the ticket prices, the merch quality, not living up to a specific standard, I think that that was just a way of really tearing down our hopes and dreams, and that is the one thing that I've never ever wanted to do on this YouTube channel, was tear down your hopes and dreams. I wanted to offer encouragement about the foreseeable future for Descendants of Zombies, because these stars have never shined brighter, and they are going to continue to shine brighter for the foreseeable future. Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus didn't devote their lives to Disney and Nickelodeon to have this get to a point where people were feeling discouraged, and I think that years ago, there wasn't as many critics on YouTube showing up as there are now, and because we have more critics on YouTube that get joy and excitement from reviewing things in such a negative way, I think people are really feeling negative more than they ever have before about Descendants and Zombies, and that's why it creates a problem for me and presents an issue when I think that, and I really feel as if more great videos could be uploaded with more positive reviews and positive reactions and 5-star perspective ratings in terms of scale when you rate your favorite moments or your favorite songs from the Descendants franchise, because everybody has a favorite song from the Descendants and Zombies franchise. Everybody has a particular moment that stands out to them, regardless if it's when Zed and Addison met for the first time in the zombie safe zone, or they realized they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together, when Victor and Nova met in Zombies 4 Down in the Vampires, when Addison tried to embrace her true calling as a werewolf and both an alien. I think these movies represented hope and second chances and really acceptance. And acceptance was to be highlighted in the Zombies franchise, because regardless of what you may have been going through, regardless of what was happening around you, you always had the support and love of your family and friends. And as long as we have the support of our family and friends in our lifetime, we have a lot to be grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for having the honor of talking about my favorite Disney franchises for forever on this YouTube channel, because they've meant so much to my heart forever and always. I just spoke on the Sleeping Beauty franchise and how much it really allowed Disney to evolve. By 1958, Disney had come out with so many celebrated classics like Snow White from the first time in 1938 after he saw a silent version of the film. And what he did with that movie was he turned it around into something so spectacular and went on to achieve so much rarity because of how iconic characters like Snow White and Sleeping Beauty would become many years later. And now for me, it's really such a huge honor seeing a greater emphasis put on the sons and daughters of these villains, because I think that years ago the villains' appreciation was not just there because it was all about the heroes, riding off into the sunset and living happily ever after. And forever it's been about the heroes riding off into the sunset and living happily ever after, really putting a stronger emphasis on how happily ever after actually has a chance of existing for people. Now we have a greater appreciation coming from Disney showcasing their villains for their truest potential because they're stronger now and they don't care what anybody thinks of them. And I think as we see more Descendants characters enter the franchise, we're going to see more storylines created, more of an opportunity to present more unpredictable moments, more unforgettable moments, and seeing these moments created is going to be an experience for a lot of people who are just getting introduced to the franchise, who are going back and reintroducing themselves to the original franchise and what it meant to people over a decade ago. Unquestionably, the Descendants franchise has really metamorphosized into something so spectacular that I think a lot of people never expected it to do. Years ago when I was watching Descendants, I never recognized the popularity of it until people started emailing me about it, sharing with me their opinions on Descendants stars and the direction of the plot and how unpredictable it seemed to be from time to time. And as time passed, I gained a greater appreciation for Descendants and Zombies, and I recognized the popularity of the franchise because my YouTube channel blew up overnight. Literally what I started doing was I started uploading Descendants and Zombies videos from out of nowhere, getting thousands of views and hundreds of subscribers, and I sit here today with almost 3,000 subscribers and nearly 70,000 watch hours on a YouTube channel that I never thought was going to amount to anything. Years ago when I was on the radio for the first time in August of 1999, I never thought my YouTube channel was going to explode the way it was, and it did. And my radio show became one of the most popular of all time because I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been doing this a lot longer than many of you have been alive. And I remember being a part of the debuts of all these Disney franchises like Aladdin and Hercules, and becoming so enthralled by the story of how Tate Donovan could sit behind a microphone and get paid to bring such an iconic character to life. Hercules and Hades' rivalry was one that I never ever forgot, and I celebrated that through the video game releases. I celebrated that through the movie franchise and its expansions, and I remember seeing all the Aladdin franchise expansions, from Aladdin to Aladdin Return of Jafar and Aladdin the King of Thieves, when Aladdin and Jasmine finally got married. There was a greater appreciation to be had growing up from 1986 to the year 2000, because by the year 2000 Disney was really coming into its own, and now by the year 2025, look at everything that's happened in the history of Disney and how many memories people have for being Disney fans. And I think there's a certain way to celebrate that, and how you celebrate it is by how you celebrate significant moments in history, like the 10th anniversary of Descendants, is by honoring the franchise for its true worth and its true value that has forever and always been associated with it. And I think the greatest appreciation is shown by the fans, because you guys do know that you are the reason why Descendants of Zombies has had so much profound success. Because if not for each and every one of you, Descendants of Zombies would have never gotten to this point, where thousands, if not millions of people have fallen in love with this franchise, who seem to never be able to get enough of the moments that Descendants of Zombies has provided us with. Because the thing is, people will forever and always choose to criticize Descendants of Zombies because they don't appreciate the significance of a daywalker and a vampire, or they don't appreciate the story between a girl and a zombie falling in love for forever. The thing is, you guys have outshined any amount of criticism that these franchises may have encountered, and you've given Freya, Skye, and Kylie Control the inspiration to keep going on performing for you under the characters Red and Nova. And because you have supported them, their stars are going to continue to shine brighter for the foreseeable future, and I have never felt more honored to be in your guys' presence talking about Descendants of Zombies on this YouTube channel, which I hope I can continue to do for the foreseeable future, because I really do believe that there's a greater appreciation when showcasing Descendants of Zombies that needs to be had by a lot of people on YouTube, because you're watching these reaction videos and it's all, oh my god, I can't believe this just happened, as almost as if they're oblivious to what they're watching. Because as far as I'm concerned, when they're recording a reaction video, they're watching Descendants of Zombies for the first time, because they've never ever sat down and watched the franchise and had a greater appreciation for it. I binge watch Descendants of Zombies. The entire Zombies collection is currently available on Disney Plus, and I binge watch it. And I've seen every moment of significance in Zombies history and Descendants history, because I think that to be a super fan, that's what you've got to do. I may not have the Descendants merch to back up my claim, or the Zombies merch to back up that claim, but I do have a greater appreciation for this franchise, because I think that if we're going to talk about Descendants of Zombies, that's what we should do, is talk about Descendants of Zombies and really showcase it for its true value and its true worth. Because while many people can choose to criticize this franchise, saying it's franchises that should have never happened, that's saying something without giving it a chance. And I think that if we give people like Kylie and Freya, Skye that little bit of extra encouragement for the future, I think that by the time 15 years passes us by, and 15 years from now, we're going to be talking about Kylie and Freya, Skye with so much promise. And 20 years from now, they're going to be reflecting back on how much the Descendants and Zombies has meant to their careers and how they really evolved into something spectacular. And that is really going to be history that we are all going to be a part of. I'm really honored to sit here and talk about Descendants and Zombies more so than anybody who has ever talked about Descendants and Zombies on YouTube. And I look forward to talking about Descendants 5, Book of Wonderland next summer, Zombies 5 in 5 years from now. I know that feels like forever away for a lot of fans who are crazy about zombies. Everybody is obsessed with zombies. I think more people are obsessed with zombies than ever given credit for. And I'm here to tell you guys there's nothing wrong with that. If you're obsessed with zombies, live out your life being a fan of Descendants and Zombies and showcase it for its greater value and its greater appreciation, because your love for Descendants and Zombies will secure its future and secure the legacies of your favorite Descendants and Zombies stars, which is what I forever and always wanted to do. I wanted to showcase your favorite Descendants and Zombie stars and secure their futures for being some of the greatest of all time, because if you can always present that argument of how Miley Cyrus is the greatest celebrity of all time for Disney and the youngest Disney legend of all time, so too can you present that argument for your favorite Descendants and Zombie stars. Never enough nice things can be said about your favorite Descendants and Zombie stars, and I just love being a part of this. I just love being here talking about Descendants and Zombies with each and every one of you, and I look forward to doing that for the foreseeable future, because in terms of a 5-star scale perspective rating, Descendants and Zombies deserves it, and deserves all the respect in the world because of how much they mean to each and every one of you, and because I know what it's like to be each and every one of you. I grew up from 1986 to the year 2000, and I saw Disney go through this metamorphosis, and ever since I saw it go through this metamorphosis, I have been incredibly supportive of Disney and what it stood for, and I'm always going to be here talking about Descendants and Zombies and showcasing it for its true value and its true worth, because for the foreseeable future, it's Descendants, Zombies, or die, and I'm just so honored to be in your guys' presence to showcase these franchises for their true value and their true worth. Thank you so much. As we keep Descendants and Zombies and the conversation going for just a little while longer, don't forget to hit my subscribe, my like buttons, and ring my bell to stay up to date with notifications. You're going to want to think about hitting that subscribe button, because October is going to be a big month on this YouTube channel, and I'm just excited to be a part of it with each and every one of you. Stay calm and zombie on, guys. We will talk about zombies and Descendants for the foreseeable future. In just literally a couple of hours from now, I will be back with a third video, so you're going to want to watch for that to drop on this YouTube channel, because I have a lot to say where Descendants and Zombies goes. Stay calm and zombie on, everybody, into the foreseeable future.